just want to speak the name of Jesus over every heart and every mind, 'cause I know there is peace within your presence.
Welcome back to Body, Soul, Spirit. If this is your first time with us, we'd like to say welcome. As always, the intent of this channel is for people to come to know that there is a God who loves them and wants to have a personal relationship with them through His Son, Jesus Christ. And if you enjoy the content of this channel, I would like to encourage you to subscribe. I would also like to encourage you to press the like button. And if there are people that you know of that would enjoy this content, I would like to encourage you to share this video with them as well. And we appreciate you doing that. Today I have the pleasure of having my mother with us again. We're going to be talking about her graduation from high school, her enrollment in the School of Cosmetology, and finally, in her meeting Dad for the first time. We'll talk about their brief courtship, their wedding, and her becoming a pastor's wife. Mom, welcome and thanks for joining us again.
I'm excited.
I am too. This is a lot of fun. And we've heard comments that people are learning the things that they didn't know within the family about both you and Dad. So this is exciting stuff. Let's begin by talking about your graduation from high school. Tell us about how many people you had in your graduation class, and then after graduation, what led you to enroll in the School of Cosmetology?
Okay, I graduated with about 32 of us in our class, which was a big number in a country school back in those days.
Sure.
And just looking forward to taking off on my own and trying my own wings, and being reminded though that I was a Christian.
Right.
And that I was to trust the Lord.
Yes.
With every move that I made in my life.
Absolutely.
Because I did not believe in divorce.
Right.
I was taught all my life, one man, one woman for life.
Right.
And so in the summer I went and took a summer job, became a file clerk and a payroll clerk.
And that was in what city?
That was in Jackson, Mississippi.
Which is about how far away from your hometown?
It was about 60 miles from my home.
Right, and you did not have a car.
I did not have a car. I had to rely on somebody every weekend to get me back to
alternate transportation.
to my home.
Right, that's right.
Yes, and then the summer flew by, and I went back home and enrolled in the School of Cosmetology in my hometown, which was Carthage.
Carthage, Mississippi.
Carthage, Mississippi.
Yeah.
So I spent the next about 9 months getting my education there.
Yes.
And then just before I graduated, just a few weeks before I graduated, one of the girls who attended the school in Carthage, she came at noon and was working on her degree and getting her cosmetology license.
Right.
And she was a grade or two behind me.
Okay.
So anyway, she came to me one day and said, I have a good friend that I am expecting for an appointment, and she has long hair.
Yeah.
And I don't feel confident at this time in cutting her hair, and I need your help.
Okay.
So I was a senior at that time, so I told her I would be glad to help her.
Right.
So Jerry's younger sister walked into the beauty shop. I never laid my eyes on her.
This is the first time you met
Yes,
Clara.
never seen her before, to my knowledge, and she came in and our good friend, started talking to us. She stood right by her, and she started telling me and talking to me about that I would probably know Clara's brother.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, who is your brother? and she started telling me that it was Jerry.
Okay.
And immediately I knew exactly who she was talking about, and
Right.
I started just making conversation with her. What's he doing now? Where is he? What's going on in his life?
Right.
And,
While you were cutting her
yeah,
hair.
while I was cutting her hair. And so we got that conversation, a haircut over.
Yeah.
And when she started to leave, she said, I really like my hair,
Oh, good.
and I'll have to do you a favor sometime. And I said, oh, okay, just
Yeah.
fix me up with your brother.
Wow, that just came out of nowhere.
That
huh?
just came out of
Now,
nowhere.
was that in jest?
Oh,
or?
it was in jest.
Okay.
I had no idea that
Right.
would ever go
Right,
anywhere.
right.
And so we just laughed and parted ways.
Yeah.
And so on Monday, we were off at the school of cosmetology because that was everybody's rest day.
Right.
And so my aunt called, and my aunt Ursula Brantley,
Mm-hmm.
she had two daughters, Jan and Tammy.
Okay.
And Tammy was about 3 years old, and Aunt Ursula asked me if I would go with her and her best friend shopping in a little town that was away from our town, and that was Kosciuszko, Mississippi.
Kosciuszko, Mississippi. Now, there's a famous person that came
That's
from
right.
Kosciuszko, Mississippi,
Right.
and that would be Oprah Winfrey.
That's right.
Yeah. So
Right.
you, what did you tell your aunt when she asked you to
Well, I
go
told
babysit? I guess.
I knew why she
Yeah,
wanted me to go,
right.
and I told her, I said, well, I think I'm gonna pass this time, and she said, oh no, come on and go with me, I need a babysitter. And I said, okay, and you know, I would do that because she was
Yeah.
a good person to me,
Right.
and she'd always been there for me. And so Jan and Tammy and Sue, my youngest sister, my Aunt Ursula and her friend, Miss Cora Shepherd, and I took off to Kosciuszko.
Yeah.
And which was about, I guess, a 20-25 minute drive from where we
Right.
lived. And so we got up there, and we had one big famous department store up there, and I knew that's where
They were gonna do
those
shopping.
ladies were going to
Yeah.
hang out. So I took Tammy
Uh-huh.
by the hand.
Okay.
During those days, there was very little air conditioning, so we just had to tough it out. When it got so hot in the car, I would get her out.
Right.
We would walk around, try to get in the shade and get a little fresh air, and she was about 3 years old and very active.
Yes.
So anyway, we came out of the department store. We'd go in there and cool off a little bit, and then we would walk out, and I just kept her moving most
Yeah.
of the time. And when I walked out of the store, I saw a car that I thought looked very familiar come around the city square.
Yes. Okay.
And that's a small town, so that was a courthouse in the middle, and all
Right.
the stores were all around it.
Right.
And so when he got close enough, I could tell that it was Jerry.
Yes.
And he was driving his car.
Right.
And so when he was coming straight toward us
Oh.
in making that square because the store was on the corner. And when he got up closer,
Mm-hmm.
I did something I'd never done before.
Really?
And that was, I kind of raised my hand and waved.
Really?
And I was shocked that I had done it.
Yeah. You just did it.
I did it. And so he became curious as to who I might be.
Right. Because he was a pastor, and he
Yeah.
didn't know if you might be one of his.
Well, that's right. And I
Yeah.
had this child by the hand.
Right. So it had him confused.
It had him confused.
Yeah.
And so he kept kind of coming around,
Mhm.
and while we were moving toward the car, and he kept coming around, and finally he parked his car, and he got out and went in and came into one of the other stores that we had stopped in.
Oh. Okay.
And he was in there pretending that he wanted to look at some sport
Yeah.
coats.
So he was trailing to see who you were.
He was trying to figure out who I was.
Okay.
And then he later saw my aunt's car tag,
Mm-hmm.
which had a different county on it, the
Right.
county where he lived.
Right.
And he recognized the car
Mm-hmm.
because my aunt and uncle operated a store, country store, and he
Okay.
passed by their house every time he
So
went
he
to
was
church.
familiar with that car.
He was familiar. So when we finished shopping, we all loaded up and we headed home. And on the way out of town, my sister Sue recognized that he had stopped to get some gasoline. And I remarked to my aunt, and I told her, look, we got to hurry up and get home because I'm expecting a phone call.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we went on home, and when we walked into our house, I announced to my mother, my grandmother, my dad, and my younger sister, if the phone rings, I'll get it because it'll be from me.
Wow.
And so, in about 20 minutes, the phone rang.
How about that?
And it was Jerry on the other line.
Really?
Yes, he had gone over to his sister's house
Okay.
to use her
Clara's
phone.
house.
Virginia's
I mean,
house.
Virginia, yeah.
Yeah, and he didn't want anybody
Right.
overhearing his conversation.
Right, very private.
It was very short conversation, and he just asked me, if I would like to go out on Friday night.
Really?
He had found
That
out.
quickly, huh?
He had put all the puzzle pieces together,
Mhm.
and now he knows who I am.
Okay.
And so I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to.
Yeah.
And so I thought Friday would never get there.
Yeah.
I was so
Took forever, 'cause
excited.
that was on a Monday, I guess.
That was on Monday.
Yeah.
And so on Friday night, he pulls up, and I think we were all on the front porch.
Right.
And just waiting and sitting out there in the cool breeze. And so we left, and we went all the way to Jackson to Mississippi College. We drove all around the campus.
Okay, which is where he
he graduated
graduated
from college.
Yeah.
And he showed me all around Clinton.
Right.
And we just rode around,
Yeah,
talked,
right.
got to know each other,
Right.
and finally we went to a nice restaurant.
Oh, really?
And
Okay,
we
good.
had a meal,
Oh, okay.
and that was just kind of time we drove back home. It was time for me to be back home.
Yeah, because it was a nice drive.
Right. Even though I was on my own, I was still expected to
To be
abide
home.
by the rules
Yeah.
of when I used to be there.
Yeah, and y'all both wanted to honor that.
Yeah,
no
we
doubt.
did.
Well, that's a fascinating, I guess, just the encounter. Obviously,
Right.
you know how God works in these
Right.
things. Now, tell us about how brief the courtship was and how you knew God had brought you two together to be husband and wife.
Right.
How long did your courtship last?
Well, we went together on that Friday night, and then on the next night, which surprised me that that he really wanted to go out another day.
Yeah.
But we went back to Jackson. We went to the stock car races,
Oh, really?
and Jerry has mentioned this many times. What stood out to him was
Mhm.
that encounter and that day, because I had been attending the stock car races with some friends,
Yeah.
and I really liked it.
Yeah.
I was a
You enjoyed
competitive
it?
person, yeah.
Right.
And I had my favorite stock car driver,
Right.
and I was very into it.
How about that?
And during that time, I was just kind of so intense on watching what was going on, I
Mhm.
kind of ignored Jerry.
Oh.
And so later he would tell me that was one of the first things that attracted him to me, is because I was not working overtime to try to
Garner his attention.
and impress him.
Right. You were just being yourself.
I was just being myself.
Yeah.
And so we went and got to a, what we called in those days, drive-in food, where they brought you food to the car. It was
Right.
close to the stock car races, and we, that gave us a chance to do more talking, and we just both went home that night with a feeling that we wouldn't discuss later, that something happened that night.
Right. Y'all just knew. So, how long was and when we say courtship, in today's vernacular, it would be called dating or going steady or, really interested in someone. So was it just a few months? Was it a year? How many months was it?
Well, it was 5.5 months later.
5.5 months. Wow. And you all just knew.
We
You just
knew, I mean, I can't tell you how the Holy Spirit just helped us both.
Absolutely. Yeah. To know
To know.
that this was a match made in heaven.
Right.
Yeah.
And we dated a lot. We were together nearly every night after that. So we packed a lot into 5.5 months.
Yeah.
But I graduated from a beauty school, and I went to work in Philadelphia, Mississippi, and I really didn't like the environment that I was in there. And
You went to work as a beautician.
as a beautician.
There for a barber. Didn't
Yes.
like the work.
Right.
Okay.
I felt like
And you were not married at that
No.
point. This was still during the dating.
I
Okay.
just felt like that I was in the wrong place,
Right.
being in the back of that barber shop.
Yeah.
It was just all men coming in and out, and even though I didn't see them that much, I just didn't feel that I was in the right place.
Totally understandable. So
So-
you decided to do what?
My goal had been always to go back to Jackson,
Oh, okay.
move back to Jackson.
Okay.
So a friend of my daddy's,
Mhm.
he had known them nearly all his life.
Mhm.
She found out that I was interested in moving to Jackson, and she had a beauty shop that she owned and ran.
Right.
And so she hired me to work for her and offered to let me live with her and her children. I believe her husband had passed away.
Okay.
So she had 3 teenage daughters, and she was wonderful to me in
Right.
every way.
Right.
So we dated, continued to date every night, and just about every night that I can remember, we were together.
Mhm.
Maybe except Sunday night, and I think we were then, because I would go home
Mhm.
and he would take me home to my mother and daddy's on the weekend,
Okay.
and then he would pick me back up and take me back to Jackson,
Okay.
if I remember correctly, and because I still didn't have an automobile.
No.
And I couldn't afford one. I
Right.
think I made about $1.32 an hour.
Yeah.
And so we continued to date, and we finally I announced our engagement. And this is another thing that I never did. I never told anybody that we were dating.
Right.
And Jerry didn't tell me not to tell anybody.
Yeah.
I didn't tell anybody. I didn't discuss that with anybody.
Right.
And he was the same way.
Right.
And so
You didn't attend church with him at that point.
I
in
didn't
time.
attend church with him at that
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
I still attended my home church with my
Right.
family.
Mhm.
But we continued to date and got engaged about end of July, if I remember correctly. And we ended up getting married September the 22nd in 1961.
1961.
Yeah.
And so, at this point in time, you've gone through a courtship which lasted a very brief period of time, but you all knew that this was the person that God had for each other. Equally yoked,
Right.
both Christians, the person that you all had been waiting
Right.
on. The engagement was set, you got married, and now you are all of a sudden a pastor's wife.
I am, and the biggest test, brand new pastor's wife, and we finally moved into the church pastorium, or church's home, where we lived.
Right.
And I became the pastor's wife to my principal, my basketball coach and his family, several of the teachers at my school
Right.
that I had just graduated from a year ago.
And this was the name of the church again at this time?
Madden Baptist Church.
Madden Baptist Church. And so you're basically the pastor's wife, in the church in your community where you grew up.
Right, and my doctor, my family doctor, and his family were members
How
there.
about that?
And so,
And how did that go over? Was that just that everybody was so elated to see that?
Well, everybody was wonderful to
Yeah,
us, and
yeah.
I tell you this, that I just told Jerry, I said, I don't know, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this, and he said, don't do anything but
Be yourself.
be yourself.
Absolutely.
And so I relaxed, and I just did what I felt the Lord wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And that was to use the gifts and talents He had given me to just love the people,
Right.
to trust Him
Yes.
and rely on Him, and just do the best that I could. And we had a wonderful time there, and like I said, the people could not have been any nicer to us, and they treated me with great respect. And
So it was
just-
a wonderful beginning
just
as a
just
pastor's
a
wife.
wonderful beginning.
Well, that's great. And I tell you what, this takes us up to the point where on our next episode, what I would like to do is, and friends, I think you'll enjoy this, we want to talk about you and Dad being newlyweds, have you all both jointly on the camera, and kind of start with, both of you all, and really talking about marriage and what a godly marriage looks like. And I think that you will really enjoy this because it will probably take us several episodes to get through this content, because we're going to be talking about many things, and one of those is starting a family. And I think that you will really be encouraged by those episodes. Thank you again for joining us today. And again, if you enjoy this content, please press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and send it out to people that you know. And we hope that you have a wonderful and blessed day. May God bless you, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
I just want to speak the name of Jesus